Hello and welcome to This Date in History, aka TDH. This show is all about the events that occurred today in years past, both recognized by actual historians, but mainly things I personally find intriguing enough for me to bring to you. The source of this information comes from the smart device application on this day. The music in the background is Home by Konac, which I found on the YouTube channel No Copyright Sounds, aka NCS. For links to the app, music, and anything else potentially interesting, check the underbar. Now let's get on with the show, shall we? Today's Moon's Day, aka Monday, August 8th, 2016. In 2010, during the 2010 China floods, a mudslide in Zhejiang County, Gansu, China caused the deaths of over 1,400 people. In 2007, an EF5 tornado touched down in Kings County and Richmond County, New York, becoming the most powerful tornado in New York to date and the first in Brooklyn since 1889. In 2000, the Confederate submarine H.L. Hunley was raised to the surface after 136 years on the ocean floor, and 30 years after its discovery by undersea explorer E. Lee Spence. In 1991, the Warsaw radio mast, which was one of the tallest constructions ever built, collapsed. In 1990, Iraq occupied Kuwait and annexed it. This action would shortly lead to the Gulf War. In 1989, during the Space Shuttle program, STS-28 mission initiated when Space Shuttle Columbia took off on a secret 5-day military mission. In 1974, President Richard Nixon, during a nationwide television address, announced his resignation from the office of the President of the United States effective noon the next day. In 1969, at a zebra crossing in London, photographer Ian McMillan took the photo that became the cover of the Beatles' album Abbey Road. In 1967, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, aka ASEAN, was founded in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. In 1963, the Zimbabwe African National Union, aka ZANU, which is the current ruling party of Zimbabwe, was formed by a split from the Zimbabwe African People's Union. Also in 1963, the Great Train Robbery occurred, in which in England a gang of 15 train robbers stole £2.6 million in banknotes. In 1960, South Kasai seceded from the Congo. In 1946, the Convair B-36, the world's first mass-produced nuclear weapon delivery vehicle, made its first flight. It was also the heaviest mass-produced piston-engine aircraft and had the longest wingspan of any military aircraft and was the first bomber with intercontinental range. In 1945, the London Charter was signed by France, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and the United States, establishing the laws and procedures for the Nuremberg trials. In 1942, the Quit India movement was launched in India against the British rule in response to Mohandas Gandhi's call for Swaraj, or complete independence. In 1927, the predecessor to the Philippine Stock Exchange opened. In 1918, during World War I, the Battle of Amiens began a string of almost continuous victories with a push through the German front lines. This event would later be known as the 100 Days Offensive. In 1908, Wilbur Wright made his first flight at a race course at Le Mans, France. This was the first public flight of the Wright brothers. However, recent evidence has surfaced suggesting they were not the first people to fly with a heavier-than-air vehicle. In 1885, over 1.5 million people attended the funeral of Ulysses S. Grant in New York City. In 1876, Thomas Edison received a patent for his mimeograph. In 1870, the Republic of Ploiesti, a radical liberal rising against Domitor Carl of Romania, failed. In 1863, during the American Civil War, following his defeat in the Battle of Gettysburg, General Robert E. Lee sent a letter of resignation to Confederate President Jefferson Davis. The letter was refused upon receipt. In 1844, the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, headed by Brigham Young, was reaffirmed as the leading body of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, aka LDS Church. In 1794, Joseph Whidbey led an expedition to search for the Northwest Passage near Juneau, Alaska. In 1786, Mount Blanc on the French-Italian border was climbed for the first time by Jacques Balmont and Dr. Michel Gabriel Paccard. In 1709, Bartholomew de Guissermo demonstrated the lifting power of hot air in an audience before the King of Portugal in Lisbon, Portugal. In 1605, the city of Oulu, Finland, was founded by Charles IX of Sweden. And in 1589, John Davis entered Cumberland Sound in search of the Northwest Passage. First, that's nothing really interesting today, so that concludes the show! Once again, check the underbar for any links you may be interested in. Don't forget to look right and left at every intersection, especially if you're playing Pokemon Go. And also rate 5 thumbs and subscribe for your dose of past events daily. I am Alexander, and you are you. Toodles!